Hello everybody and welcome to today's video. We're here to talk about Nintendo Switch Sports today, Nintendo's latest release on the Switch, and I do have a review up on digitallydownloaded.net. You can go and check that out now. But basically this is the continuation of the Wii Sports property, which is now 16 years old, which makes me feel very old. I do remember playing it for the first time on the Wii 16 years ago. But yes, it is a continuation of that series. It is not the biggest game that Nintendo will release this year, of course. It is sandwiched a little bit between the likes of Kirby and Xenoblade Chronicles 3 coming up later this year, and that's really what it is. It is very much a kind of filler game for Nintendo. But it's not bad. I do enjoy it. At the same time, I do question the ongoing validity of this property as a series, because Nintendo obviously tries to make something of it. They did release a sports title on the Wii U as well, but I think what made Wii Sports, the original, such a special title is something that doesn't translate so well to later consoles and is certainly not as relevant now as it was back then. You do have to remember that 16 years ago, motion controls was a very new thing. Nintendo had this Wii coming out, which was in many ways a very different way of looking at video gaming. We didn't really have anything like it beforehand, and it revolutionized in many ways the way that we play games. Nintendo needed something to explain to people how to play with the Wii, because it was unlike consoles previously where you'd hold a controller in your hand. In this one, you needed to point the controller at the screen, wave it around like a remote, but at the same time have that kind of finesse over the movement so that it translated into actions on screen. So Nintendo needed a very simple way of explaining to people how to use this controller system. And Wii Sports was the answer. It was a packed-in game for everywhere but in Japan. In Japan, you had to buy it separately, and it sold pretty well, I believe, but everywhere else in the world, it was a packed-in game, and it was the perfect packed-in game. It had 5 little sports games on it, which, and I'm going off memory here, we had tennis, bowling, golf, boxing, and baseball. And each of those games was very simple, because you have to remember that the original Wii technology was actually very, very simple as far as motion controls go. But it did a great job of explaining how to play with the Wii. And after that, you would then go away and play other games. Wii Sports wasn't the kind of thing that you spent many, many hundreds of hours playing by yourself. It was something that you pulled out because everybody in the family could enjoy it, and everybody in the family did enjoy it. It was, in many ways, responsible for the Wii becoming the success that it was, because all of a sudden, people bought it for lifestyle reasons, and Nintendo then capitalized on that with Wii Fit and various other games that were designed for the whole family, not just for the traditional gamer market. So you'd have grandma playing with their grandkids, Wii bowling around Christmas time and all that kind of stuff. And it was very successful at that. I spent a lot of time playing Wii Sports myself in that kind of context, in that multiplayer context. For a long time, it was on high rotation when we caught up with my friends and family, and for us, bowling was the main one. I think bowling was pretty much the main game for most people. But weirdly enough, you did learn something about how to play bowling by playing Wii Sports. My brother, who was never great at bowling, spent a lot of time playing the Wii Sports bowling, and he actually saw his bowling game in the real world bowling. He actually saw his 10-pin bowling game improve and his scores improve, and now he's actually pretty good. So there was that part of it as well, but mostly it was just this really fun way of playing games with friends. So to fast forward through that long introduction to Nintendo Switch Sports, I keep calling it Wii Sports Switch, but it's not that. To fast forward to the Nintendo Sports Switch, it's not going to have the same impact, and that's for a couple of reasons. Firstly, it's not a packed-in game. It has come many years after the Switch, and I don't think that people are going to buy into the Switch now just to play this particular game. It worked as a launch title for the Wii because it was something that everybody would pull out and play, share around, and kind of discover the console together. I think the console has already been discovered with the Switch, so the initial impact that the game is going to have is going to be much less, even if it was designed in such a way that it would pull people in. People don't need to have motion controls explained to them anymore, because everybody's already had the Wii. We've had the PlayStation Move. We've had all kinds of mobile phone games that use motion controls. We've had Kinect. We've got AR. We've got VR. We've got so many different motion engaged experiences with technology now that we don't need a title to explain that to us. So that role for Nintendo Switch Sports is not there either. But also the games that they've selected, the 6 sports that are in this thing, are not really tuned towards the audience in the same way that the Wii Sports ones were. So when you look at Wii Sports, the original one on the Wii, when you look at Wii Sports, the original, the sports were all basically tied around a lack of movement through the body. And the sport was more about swinging the remote. So baseball, you swung the remote to swing the baseball, but you didn't actually have to do the running between the plates. Tennis is a sport that does have foot movement, but that was automated within the game, so you were really just swinging the racket. Bowling is another one which was very, very simple. You didn't have to do the couple of steps, walk up to the line to throw the ball down. You just kind of went through the bowling action. Golf was another one. The swing in the remote closely mapped to the real world golf swing, but you didn't have to move to the ball after swinging. And boxing again, like tennis, it has movement, but it's movement that can be automated within the game without compromising on the experience. Looking at Nintendo Switch Sports, you've got bowling, which is pretty much the same thing as it was back on the Wii. But other than that, and you've got tennis, which is pretty much the same back as Wii Sports as well. But the other 4 sports do have a more in-depth movement system through them. So volleyball, for example, what they've tried to do here is just narrow volleyball down to the 3 basic actions: the set, spike, and block, and bump, I think it is. I can't remember the technical name of the second of the 3 movements in volleyball, but they've just put those kind of 3 motion actions into it, and that misses a lot of the texture of volleyball. In fact, Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball has a more nuanced and more accurate take on the actual sport of beach volleyball than this one, because it doesn't quite work out. Football, which is a new one in this one, actually requires you to move around yourself. And while that works as a video game thing, and I do think that of the 6 games that are in Nintendo Switch Sports, the soccer one will be the most popular with the gamers. It's way too complex for people who are very casual fans to pick up and play. So grandparents are not going to play this one with their kids. The kids might play online, but they're not going to play it in the same way as they played Wii Sports. The sword fighting one, I think that was an addition to one of the later Wii Sports that I didn't play, but it's in here as well, and it's not particularly engaging. And badminton is just like tennis, but with slightly less. The mechanics are pretty much the same. It doesn't really feel different enough to count. So this collection of games doesn't have the same texture, the same quality in terms of the way that they've taken the movement and turned it into video game actions that the original Wii Sports did. So for that reason, I don't think it's going to resonate quite so well with audiences. There is online play, and that is a good addition. But again, I think that misses the context of Wii Sports a bit. Wii Sports was always about playing with friends. It was a local multiplayer experience. It never needed online to be interesting. When you play online, there's a dehumanizing factor, and it just doesn't have the same experience as playing this game with people in the room. You can play local multiplayer, which is great, but the focus seems to be more on pushing people into playing online, and I don't think that's going to be quite so successful. So overall, I just don't see where this game is going to go. I think it is quite well made, and you'll see that in my review, that I'm certainly not scoring it down for what it is. I just don't think that it is going to have the resonance or the impact that the original Wii Sports did. And I don't think that this series as such has legs. I think it was very much a time and place thing, and I think it was a work of genius, the original Wii Sports. But Nintendo Switch Sports probably should be the last one of this kind of franchise. I just don't see what Nintendo can do with it to continue to build on it and make it interesting while also having the resonance that that original one did. Anyway, that's enough for this video. Please do hit that like and subscribe button if you've enjoyed it. Let me know your own thoughts about Wii Sports, your own experiences. Did Wii Sports help you get fit? Did Wii Sports help you learn a sport? Plenty of stories about that for both counts for people. And if you have those stories yourself, do let me know. If you're interested in playing this game, let me know. Let me know what you think once you are playing Nintendo Switch Sports. And if you think it has that same resonance and impact that the original Wii Sports did. If you do enjoy what we're doing and you want to support what we do on digitallydownloaded.net, as well as the website, as well as the YouTube channel, please do subscribe to us on Patreon. You can do so for just $1 a month. And in doing so, not only do you support all the stuff we do day to day on across both platforms, but you also get a monthly magazine, which is 56 pages long, and it goes in depth with all kinds of features and essays and analysis, not just of video games, but also Japanese art, film, music, literature, the works. So if you are interested in your Japanese games, that will be a way of extending your interest to other forms of Japanese art. All right, thank you very much. We will see you at the next video.